So I welcome you all. Basically, these psychological scaling techniques were used to measure attitude scales. However, nowadays it are more prominent and being used in all kinds of psychological test construction, tools construction, and these are very common methods of test construction, and these are being used. So first question comes is why scaling? Why we use scales? Very simple answer. We all know our scales are used to quantify qualitative information. Whatever our attitudes are, our feelings are, whatever we feel, the qualities we have, characteristics we have, all these are in qualitative terms. We have these skills and traits of various qualities, and these qualities are in depth, very deep, and to assess them, to measure them, what we need to do is we need to quantify them using some numerical scaling techniques. So you all know that we use four type of quantifying scaling technique: nominal scale, ordinal scale, interval scale, and ratio scale. So these are methods to convert qualitative information into quantitative information. Using these four scales, we transfer the qualitative data into quantitative data. Now, why we develop test or scale? We basically need to cater to the specific group of test takers. So people are there, they want to know about their abilities, the level of their abilities, and we have to address their give them information about their abilities. We want to sample their behavior, opinion, attitude about a construct. So we want to know their behavior, opinion, attitude on something. We want to accuracy of our test scores. We want to improve the accuracy, and we may need to revise and implement and validate previously developed tests. So due to various reasons, we need to develop a scale or a psychological test. Psychological test, you all might be knowing already that these tests are developed to know our relative position in a group. You already know that psychological attributes are not quantifiable. Psychological attributes are not quantifiable. These attributes are, we cannot know the end or beginning of it. We cannot know what extent a person might have a particular psychological attribute, but what we can know is their relative position in comparison to the member of his or her larger community. So suppose we want to know the intelligence, we want to measure intelligence, we never know the beginning and end of intelligence. We don't know how intelligent one can be. We can only know a person's relative position, intelligence position in his or her group. So the test or psychological tests help us assess a person's relative position as compared in respect to in his or her group. These skills we are going to talk about today are developed to measure attitude, but as I have already said that these skills are now being used to measure several kinds of psychological attributes than attitude, and that is why having a knowledge about these skills are necessary. These skills help us study a large number of people. So when we use tools developed on the basis of these skills, we can study a large number of people, and the skills we are going to talk about today are these 5 scales: Thurston scale, Likert scale, Bogart's social distance scale, Gutmann scaleogram, and cementing differential scale by Osgood and colleagues. So let us first talk about Thurston scale. Thurston scale, as name suggests, it was developed by Thurston and Cave in 1929, almost 90 years back. This scale is also known as method of equal appearing intervals. So this scale use interval scale, properties of an interval scale. Interval scale you already know, which have an assumed 0, and it assumes that the distance between two consecutive points are same as any other two consecutive points on the scale. So each points marker in the scale have equal distance. Now how we develop this scale? For you developing the Thurston kind scale, we generate a large number of statements. So whatever attribute we want to measure, we develop a large number of statements related to various aspects of that attribute. All these attributes are possible opinions about, all these statements are positive possible opinions about the attributes being measured. Once we develop and collect a large set of statements, we edit them for relevance and clarity. So we read and reread each statement, whether the meanings are clear, whether these statements are relevant for measuring the issue in hand, whether they are understandable and clear. And once we are sure that the scale consists of relatively understandable statements, we give them to independent judges. So we give this set of items to few independent judges, and these judges are asked to place these statements on a 11 scale continuum, which range from 1 most unfavorable to 11 most favorable, 6 being the middle and known as neutral. So we ask these judges to place this statement on any one place. Remember that we are not talking about their opinion on this scale. We rather ask the judges to place the statement on a position. So suppose there is one statement, I don't like summer season. A judge might place it as on the point 2 on a 11 point scale. So 2 is not his response. Remember, 2 is not his response, rather he has placed that statement on 2. And in the similar manner, all the statements the judges place it on any one point of the 11 point scale. These 11 points assume equal distance between the two adjacent positions, as is the assumption of an interval scale. And when it is finalized by the judges, each judge would have placed all statements on any one point of these 11 point scales. So finally we will get all the statements on a particular point, and all those statements which are at a particular point. So suppose there are 12 statements on 1, these 12 statements at 1 will have equal difference from the other set of scales which are placed on 2, and they will be equally different from other set of statements which are placed at 3. So what we then get after the judge's rating, that we get a separate set of statements at different interval point levels. Remember that when these judges assign these statements, they do it on the basis of their logic of how favorable or unfavorable opinion the statement itself present, rather than what is his or her opinion on that. So not the judge's opinion on the statement, rather what is the favorability or unfavorable opinion of each statement on a 11-point scale where the statement itself is. So on this basis, so each then once each and every judge rate this, we have their ratings, and then we combine all these judges giving positions for each statement, and then each the mean rating given is known as scaled value for the statement. So suppose there is one statement and three judges gave them different ratings, the average of their three judges rating. Suppose one judge placed this statement on rating 2, second judge placed it on rating 1, and third placed it on rating 2. So 2 plus 2 plus 1, 5 divided by 3, 1.88 is the scale value for that statement. And similarly, we get the scale value for each of the statement. Now then, this scale is considered ready. The Thurston scale is considered ready, and all these statements have a numerical value which is determined on the basis of judge's placement. Now when this scale is ready, it is administered to the respondents, and the respondents tick on all those statements he or she agrees with, not necessarily all. Remember, the respondent has to tick only those statements they agree with, and then for those statements their scaled scores, the scaled scores which are already obtained by on the basis of judges rating. So all these scaled scores are then summed, and this total is considered the person's attitude score. So that is Thurston scale. Remember, it is the oldest scale, so nowadays the use of this scale is not as much as the other forms of scale we are going to talk about. The next in the line is Likert scale. Likert scale, we all know it's a very popular method of scaling, and majority of psychological tests use Likert scale. It requires the respondents to indicate degree of agreement or disagreement on statements, and the sum score for this agreement and disagreement is considered person's attitude. That is why the scale is also known as the scale of summated ratings. In this method, for constructing this scale, various opinion statements are collected, same as Thurston. Various statements are written on various issues related to the target attitude we are measuring. All these statements, once written, are edited for consistency, language, clarity, and once we finalize this test, we give it to a group of subjects. So here we don't need judge, we give it to a group of subjects representing the population for which this test is being developed. Now all the subjects rate each statement on a 5-point continuum. 1 being strongly agree, 2 agree, 3 undecided, 4 disagree, 5 strongly disagree. We have used it many, you all know such scaling. So when a subject rate each scale, he or she considers his personal agreement or disagreement and then accordingly rate the scale on this continuum. Finally, on the basis of all student score, we do item analysis, and using the discrimination analysis, we select all those scores which differentiate the high scorers from the low scorers. So item analysis in Likert scaling is very important, given high importance for selecting the items which is unrelated to the work previous scale, which was Thurston, in which all statements are considered as final. Likert scale, all statements are not final, only those which are found by item analysis to be highly differentiating between participants are considered final. When we want to measure the attitude of a given respondent, we measure this scale, we administer this scale to them. The respondent indicates their opinion for each item. Now for each item, each opinion is then given score on the basis of the opinion. So suppose you have given undecided to a statement, we give them rating 3, and after giving ratings to all the statements, the sum of these ratings is the score of the respondent, attitude score of the respondent. Let us quickly differentiate or try to understand what is the difference between Thurston and Likert. In Thurston scale, the respondent has to tick only those responses with which he or she agrees. But in Likert scale, the respondent have to indicate his preference for all the statements. Second, in the development phase, for Thurston, we need a panel of judge to finalize the scaled score for each statement. For Likert scale, we don't need a panel of judges. Also, it is very important to know that Likert did not assume equal interval between the scale points, though we consider it as an equal interval, but originally Likert did not assume that there is equal interval between the 5 continuum he has given. This scale was only ordinal, and therefore it orders respondent attitude on a continuum. It does not give a interval score. It only gives a continuum. So one is better than other on the basis of his or her score. This can be judged, but equal distance between the attitudes cannot be ascertained. Majority of researchers these days prefer to use Likert scale rather than Thurston scale, because developing Thurston scale is relatively a longer task. Finding judges, getting their opinions, and on the basis of it getting the scaled score and all, it's too much time taking. So people prefer Likert technique more often than Thurston technique. Recently, some researchers have also used a 7-point continuum rather than 5-point that was developed by Likert. But it doesn't matter you use 5-point or 7-point. What only matters is the final selection of items require item analysis. On the basis of item analysis only, we decide the item to be included for the final test. Now let us talk about third scale, which is Bogart's social distance scale. This scale was developed by Bogardus in 1933 to develop attitude in a specific context. This scale was developed to attitude towards ethnic groups, or you may say social groups, and this used to develop the amount of distance people perceive in their social attitudes. So in this scale, as you can see from the table here, various social groups, racial groups, ethnic groups might be listed here, and then the various possible relationships are given as a continuum. So possible relationships with a group, you may have close kinship by marriage, personal chum, as friend, as neighbor, as colleague, as citizen, as visitor, or as would exclude this particular person from your country. So you can see extremely favorable, you can include as marriage, to extremely unfavorable relationship possible is adjusted on a continuum. Once that is done, the subject, this matrix is given to subjects, and they are asked to indicate the relationship to which they are willing to admit member of each group. So for first ethnic group, in what capacity they would like to admit that person. Would they like to marriage to a member of that group? Would they like member of that group as their neighbor? Would they like to member of that group as their work colleague? They have to indicate. And the closeness of the relationship a person choose for a particular group, this tells his or her attitude towards that person. So it is an important, very appropriate technique for measuring attitude towards various social groups. This scale has several implications also. The first implication is, if it implies that if a person admits a particular group person in a close relationship, then it is most likely that the person will admit him in all other relationships. For example, if a person accept one person, if a respondent accept one person of a particular group to be fit for marriage, then he is more likely to accept him as friend and neighbor and etc. So this scale implied that if you consider member of a group as the closest relationship, the future other distant relationships you will definitely accept. However, there is a limitation to that. When you accept member of a particular community or group for a closer relationship on a basis which is other than the expressed attitude, then this phenomena will not work. For example, if you are ready to marry to a person of a group only because of money that person has or some other benefit that person has, then it is less likely that you accept a member of that group as your friend or neighbor. So this problem is there in this scale. Otherwise, the scale believes that if you accept a member of a particular group as your closest relationship, you are likely to accept him or her for all future possible relationships. So as I said, it's a very important type of scaling which is used to measure attitudes in social relationship, especially intergroup attitude or interreligion attitude. Next is in this line is Gutmann's scaleogram. It is a cumulative measure of attitude, so not single one time. It is cumulative, and also it measures unidimensional attitude, not multiple dimension, one dimension of attitude. So in this method also we develop statements related to a particular attitude we want to measure, and we arrange them in increasing order of difficulty of acceptance. So we arrange the first statement which we consider that it is highly possible that it will be accepted. Then second, less than first item, less possibility of acceptance, then third, then fourth, then fifth. The logic for this scale is very simple, as is the logic of Wessler's intelligence scale. What is the logic of Wessler's intelligence scale? It assumes that if a person answers a highly difficult question, he will definitely answer the low difficulty question. So, in that similar line, Gutmann scaleogram assumes that if a person agrees with a statement that express higher degree of a given attitude, he will be agree to all other statements which express lower degree of same attitude. Okay, so on this basis, this scaleogram is developed. Now, how to develop this scaleogram? For constructing the scaleogram, opinion statements are written, developed, and they are arranged in increasing order of difficulty of acceptance. Mean they are arranged in a way that most people would accept the first statement, and as we go down, fewer and fewer people will accept the subsequent statement. So the statement which is likely to be accepted by everyone would go on top, and the statement which are expected to be not accepted by anyone would go at the end. After this arrangement, we give this list to a sample subject and ask them to either to accept or reject the statement. Then after we receive their statements, we find out how many people have accepted how many statements, and on the basis of now subjects acceptance, we rearrange the statements. So suppose one statement I consider that would be accepted by everyone, I placed it at the top, but the sample, the group of participants I administered this scale to, they did not accepted it. So now after this first set of administration on subject, I will take the statement which is accepted by everyone or majority of the people and rearrange it on the top. And again the arrangement will be made, but this time this arrangement is not on the basis of what I believe, rather it is based on the statements, based on the responses of the subjects. Once this is rearranged, it is given again to the another group of subjects, and on the basis of their responses, this is again rearranged, and this process continued until we find a scalable set of items. Mean until we find a set of order of item which everyone says most agreeable. So until we get the original set in which the subject says in the same order, they accept all the higher scales and getting down the agreement is less, we keep continuing this exercise. Finally, we get a set of statements with their particular order in the scaleogram. Once this is developed, when we want to measure a person's attitude, we simply give the scale to the person and ask them to tick or accept all items with which he or she agrees to. And then the total number of successive items is his or her attitude score. So for each item, we give them score say 1, and the number of items he agrees to is the total attitude score for that person. This scale is very important and relatively more empirically tested also, but it has some limitation. We find that rarely respondents First limitation is it is time taking. We have to administer it again and again until we get an empirically tested sequence of items. Number one, it is a time taking task. Second, respondents rarely check all item. Usually when people are given choice to take items with which they agree, they skip items in between. So it is difficult to get a perfectly unidimensional scale, and this preferably tells us about real life situations. It indicates the difficulty we get in standardizing a Guttman type scale simply indicate that in real life we are not very much with a single dimensional attitude, rather we possess combination of attitudes. So this is an important scale, but it has its limitations. And the final set of final scaling technique I will talk about is the semantic differential scale. This technique is developed by Osgood, Susi and Tenenbaum, and they developed this scale on the basis of extensive factor analytic study which was conducted across cultures. So they conducted studies across cultures and the data were factor analyzed, and on the basis of all these analysis they developed this scale. In this scale, attitudes are measured in terms of meaning people give to a word or pair of a word. So in this scale we have series of bipolar adjectives. For example, you can see here fair and unfair. So fair being the first in the series and unfair being the last in the series. Valuable versus worthless, good versus bad. So each pair is arranged on a continuum. One is at the beginning and its pair is at the end. So opposites are adjusted on the end of a continuum, which may be a 7-point continuum. When we develop such scale, if we want to measure individuals' attitude, we give them this bipolar adjective set and ask to indicate where your attitude falls in each continuum, and the number chosen by him or her is his or her score on that continuum, and overall attitude score is the sum of all score on all continuum. So it's a very simple scale. Development of such scale is is time taking, cause finding out pairs for attitude related pairs, placing them on continuum, it requires a large set of studies. Later on you found that there are many scales that use this paired combination, such as this big five personality inventory. They also have continuum pair, rather they use different method, but they also have the paired combination of words. They also have paired combination of traits, but in this scale we use paired combination of words, meaningful words, and then on the basis of person's choice on this continuum we get their attitude. So these are the attitude scales that are prevalent in psychological test and tools constructions I talked about. As I already said, these were developed to measure attitude, but nowadays these scaling techniques are used to measure a range of psychological constructs and are more popular. Among all these, we know that Most popular scaling technique is Likert scale, which is still dominated in majority of the psychological tests. But these other scales are also quite popular, and they are chosen on the basis of the purpose of the trait or construct being measured to. So this was all. I hope I could do justification to the topic I was covering. If you have any questions, query, these are the sources from where I tried to pick up these informations. And if you have any sources, queries, we can discuss it using the chat options.